it's called a, find my white. It's called a dirty pour. That's what the name of this one is. So I'm gonna put a little bit of white in. And then before I add any more to it, I'm going to add the second most expensive thing. I got this at Walmart. It's called silicone oil, and it's used for a lot of products that don't have anything to do with art. And it comes in different ways, but I would recommend this. It wasn't very expensive, and you don't use much of it. I mean, it lasts forever. Now, I'm not going to put it in the white, but I'm going to put a couple drops in each of those. Those are what make the cells. Where did the pictures go? Oh, okay. Find a good cells. Okay, these little circular things that form in there, they're called cells. And among the pouring people, that's what they want. They want to get the cells. Now, I don't try to get a huge amount of them, but you never know, because I think there's a lot about ones, like this one doesn't have very many cells, but I like it anyway, you know, so it doesn't have to be a lot of cells to be pretty. This one has a lot of cells in it. See all these little circular things? And the thing is, I can't tell you why one does and one doesn't. And that's the frustrating part of it, is that you don't ever know what you did or what you didn't do. The more you do it, you get to the place where you can kind of guess, well, I probably did this or that. But, okay, now I'm going to, right on top of the white, I'm going to pour, I need to stir that just a little bit for that silicone to go in. Just going to pour a little bit on that side. And a little bit on that side. Okay, now because I'm doing such a little one, this will be way too much, even for that one. But I'm going to do it so that I can catch some of it. Let's see what I want to catch it with. Here's this bag, so it won't go everywhere. Okay, now I'm going to, it's called a dirty pour flip cup. So I'm going to lay this on top. It's so little it all went off. Okay, now I'm going to let it sit there for a few minutes. Now, I wasn't planning on doing this, but since, can you see what's happening up here? Stand up so you can see it. See, it's already forming all those cells and everything where it slipped and came out of there. So I'm going to lay this, which is another technique that you can do, down in it. And because I had already painted it black, I'm going to leave those black corners, and then I can roll it and make it move a little bit. And now they say that you're better off if you, I don't know if I can make this work with one hand.
You want me to try that?
See, I think it maybe works better to turn that way. They call this a torch, and
Is it working?
And a lot of people will go to Walmart and buy a real expensive. There we go. Just kind of do it over the top of it, and it makes those cells pop out even more. I don't know if you can see them.
I can see some of them popping out there. Look at that. Yeah, it is.
And
You can see them?
it also will,
Is that enough?
it will also
Oh, wow.
take the air bubbles, because as you pour it out, it sometimes gets air bubbles. And so the torch does that. But I found that this little $5 one works as well as a $25 one that pastry chefs use. It's just not that necessary to get that.
Do you mind
Okay.
me doing this? By the way, my mom, Linda,
Yeah.
I wanted her to come today from Louisville and she couldn't. So
Well,
I hope you don't mind me doing
No,
this.
I don't mind that. I mean, I do hate having my picture made, but I just pretend you're not. Focus on this, not on me, please. Okay, now I'm gonna lift this.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I think because there's so much on it, now the reason that this one wasn't as much on it because I laid it down in it, but this one coming out of the cup is pretty thick. And so I'll have to take some of that off of there because it'll crack. If I don't, when it dries, it'll crack. But I love what it's doing, and I don't want to have to do very much. So I'm gonna just very, very slowly. I don't think I'm even gonna do that thing on this.
It's dripping on that side too.
Yeah, I want them to drip down because you want it to be around the edges like this is. You want it to go down over the edges. And sometimes if you can't get it to, if you'll pick up a little bit and put it in there, it'll help it to run. And then it'll go on down those edges.
Did you come up with this yourself?
No, I was telling them that I kept seeing it on my Facebook, and so I looked it up on YouTube, and there are thousands of people doing this.
And it's called Dirty Pour.
Well, the thing you want to look up is acrylic pouring, and because there's all kinds of new types that people are coming up with, but they would all be listed under acrylic pouring. Now, can you see when I'm moving it, how it changes the... Now, it's very, very likely that this one will crack because I just had too much on there and then liked it and didn't want to pour it off. So I'm leaving it pretty thick, and I probably shouldn't. Okay, and then you have to just lay them down and preferably put them up on some risers, I call them. Two of these. Yeah, like that.
A neat way to like do photos. You know, the
There are-
background for photos.
There are lots and lots of ways to
Little
use
piece
it.
of glass or something.
You can put it on pots for flowers, vases. It's whatever your imagination comes up with, because acrylic paint will go on just about anything. So,
There's some on the side there. That's not.
is it dripping off?
No, it's just what was underneath it. I didn't know if you wanted to cover it or not.
Yeah, I do want it covered. But now it'll take this a long time to dry. In fact, I haven't figured out yet. I always leave them overnight, so I guess I'm gonna leave this overnight down here, because if I try to take them home, they'll all be messed up. Okay, so that's the first and the second one. So I didn't plan to show you this technique, but now this time I'm trying not to, I had a painting on here during the eclipse that was an eclipse painting, and it didn't sell, and I brought it home. And so that's why it's got Hopkinsville, Kentucky on there. And by keeping it from dripping on this, then I'll probably sign it up here and leave the Hopkinsville show. Now, does anybody have a thought of what that looks like?
A flower.
A flower. And that's totally, you know, just,
Never know.
And probably I could later do that with green, and then it would really look like a flower.
Do you mind questions while you're doing
No, I don't mind at all. In fact, you give me a chance to think.
I have some countertops that I have the opportunity to be creative with. You know where I'm going with this.
You did it.
I'm thinking, how neat. I'm sure you've seen the countertops down at Harper House.
No, I
with
haven't. I've not been in.
What they did was they took just seed corn and did a really thick acrylic overlay. So
But
that's,
it may have been. Did you ask them how they did it, or did you just assume that they used a clear? It's probably.
poly. It's like what the Mexican restaurants usually have.
It's. I'll think
That
of
levels
it in a minute.
itself out.
Yes. Yes. What is that called?
I've used it before.
Henrietta has used it.
It's a double
on-
pour
yeah,
mixture.
It's the two things that you
Right.
pour together.
You have to be very careful
What's
with
it
it.
called?
I can't think of it,
Okay.
but I've used it before.
So this is interesting to me.
But whatever
Well,
it is, but I've
yeah.
used it before. But I was thinking that, but then when I saw this, I thought,
Oh yeah.
how neat would this be? And then do that over it.
I've thought about that. I have lovely pink or rose-colored countertops. And I've only lived in this house 21 years, and I've been planning to do something to those countertops ever since. My hesitation about doing this and then put the, I thought I was going to say it. I cannot think of it. Over the top of it, because it dries so hard that you could drop things on it and everything, and
Right.
it wouldn't scratch it or do anything. So if you're going to do it on furniture, you need to use that. And in fact, I have seen on YouTube again where they will pour the two things together.
We'll think of it in a minute.
Well, honey, you shouldn't be like that. I'm 78. I have a good reason for being
Well,
that
it's
way.
been a long time since I did it.
Is it poly something?
No, it's not.
It's a two mixture combination, and you have to do it just right,
Yeah,
and you have to work fast.
Has to be exactly the same amount going into this tub, and then you stir and stir and stir and stir and stir
It's thick.
till it gets more liquid. And then I've seen them actually pour the paint into it, or I've seen them pour it, like pour it on a dry surface.
And
like
then it
that.
levels itself out
Yeah.
perfectly.
And it works, but I would suggest before you try it on countertops,
Practice.
you do it on a table
Sure.
or something
Yeah, old
smaller.
piece of furniture.
Because that's been my concern. I couldn't possibly pour the whole countertop myself at one time, so it'd be hard to get it to look like it flowed into each other, where you stop and then come back and make
Without
your colors
help.
again. Yeah. Well, just period. You'd have to really do some figuring on it. And I would think that the best way, I saw somebody do a white one, and they were trying to make it look like white marble, and they poured the white in a huge area, and then they just dribbled some paint to make the veins and so on like it would be on marble. And that worked pretty good, because there wasn't a lot of colors. But if you try to do something like that, I think you'd have to be very experienced at doing it. Okay, I guess I'll throw that away. I hate to throw the paint away. All right, now I'm gonna do this one. Now you can sit down for a few minutes if you want to. Jeannie, yes. Take that thing and bring it out. Okay, now this one is about the same, that's the size I should have had when I poured this. So I don't know, I think I'll do some black. Yeah. Okay. Again, I'm gonna start with the white. Now, the reason I did not put any silicone in the white, and the reason you almost always start with white, at least when you're beginning this process of learning how to do it, is because white is the heaviest, the densest of all the paints. And some of these others, which it can get real technical if you're trying to figure out which ones are opaque, which ones are semi-transparent, and which ones are transparent. So my suggestion is just try them all. Just don't worry about it at first. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so I've got the white in there, and it has no silicone in it because I want that white to come. See, when I turn it upside down, the white's going to be on the top, and I want the white to go down into the other colors and hopefully make lacing. Now, it didn't do it much here. See, the white didn't even appear very much there, but you never know. Just, you think, well, I know how this will turn out, but it doesn't. Okay, so I'm gonna do orange next. Just a little bit of yellow. And you can pour them right on top of each other. I have a tendency to pour them off to the side. Okay, now the blacks, makes me nervous to try the blacks, but I like the black in it. Okay, now I forgot to put the silicone in each one, which is no surprise. So then I'll just drip it kind of on top of each color. It doesn't have to be on each color. Okay, let's put a little bit more white. And a little bit more red. Okay. Let's see. No, I can't use that.
You need the bag, the plastic bag.
Yeah, that's one. Okay. Here we go again. I'm going to put it on top.
Go.
I held on to it tighter that time.
It's going faster.
Yeah, it'll seep out just a little bit, but the reason I wait is so that this white will come down and they'll all come down and not just, let me turn it, and you can see sometimes the prettiest part is in the cup. And I've tried to think, well, what could I do with the cup? Let it dry like that. Okay, I'm going to lift it. Now, if you want to stand up and watch it, that's fine. Okay.
Are you gonna use this on it or not?
Yeah, if you can get it started for me again.
There you go.
You don't want to touch it, for sure, because some of the things that are in here are flammable. But that's why I've said, I just don't think you have to have it. Okay, since I'm so close to the edge over here, I'm gonna start tilting. And while I'm tilting, I'm not watching down here, I'm watching here to see what happens. And sometimes it's just so frustrating because it'll have a beautiful pattern right in the middle, and because you have to spread it out,
You lose it.
you lose it. It moves and changes enough.
Reminds me of lava.
But
Reminds me of lava.
yeah. It's sort of like watching grass grow. A little more interesting than watching grass grow. Okay, now I'm also beginning to wonder if maybe I have enough paint. And again, you know, nobody has anything set up as mixed so many cc's of this and an exact amount. So it's just, you're just kind of hoping and praying that you're getting it right. So what I can do You all are from Hoptown, right? Did you see my shirt? My Hoptown soccer shirt.
You can just throw some in there.
So I think partly because I've got more orange, and then partly because you all are from Hoptown, I'm gonna let it run just a little bit that way, but in a minute I'm gonna pour some orange there. And it won't do much by itself if it doesn't have another mixture in it. But it can be good sometimes to have just a solid like this was, because it gives it a little bit more composition.
More flat? Will it be more flat?
If you don't get it on too thick, which will make it crack, it'll finally level out and,
I mean more flat in terms of finish,
oh,
as opposed to shiny.
no, and the only thing that's gonna control the shininess or the dullness of is the paint itself. Some acrylics are gloss acrylics, some are,
Because that
flat.
didn't have that in it, right?
yeah, it did. I had put
Oh,
it
okay,
in.
gotcha.
I'd put it in the first time. Kind of gets tricky as to what to hold on to.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just have that one corner.
You get it. You guys are here from Hopkinsville High School? Okay. Art class? Art class.
Okay. Okay, now I need,
I love that, the orange and brown. And all those
I knew I'd do something like that. I do this at home all the
I'm
time.
picturing the same colors, 3 blocks. Yeah.
I was telling her before you came in that if you want to be sure as you're starting to do it, that the colors will go well together. And of course I did that with these. They're all analogous colors. They're close together on the color wheel. So when they mix together, they produce nice colors. But that's why I was so worried about putting the black in it. But it usually, now it does over here where you've moved it and so on, but it's amazing to me that the black just kind of stays to itself and doesn't mix in and just cover up all that other. So it's just really fascinating. But if you really want to learn how to do it and all the different ways of doing it and so on, you do need to look at, I bet there's 200 or more people with videos on YouTube. But just try that Rick Cheadle, I think is how it's pronounced. He's very good, and he sells a lot of his. So. Okay. Now, I'm gonna take a rest and go to the bathroom, and you all can look at it or sit or think of some questions or something, and I'll be right back. This
one, the more I look at it, the more I like it.
Yeah.
You all think we will try this? Yeah, maybe next week or so. But I'm wondering about the cracking. I mean, how does it crack?
I want to volunteer to help.
You want to come?
Something to have a little free time.
Live here?
Oh, yeah. I just relocated for that.
Yeah.
Take care.
No, So I was happy when she said that she was gonna do it. I said, oh, well, I'll just sit closer to the shop, I'll stay and watch.
I love volunteer to do stuff in the school.
I have a lot of art students, but this is art club, and they're so much fun. Cause they're,
Kind of neat when you kind of been told about the cells and things. I didn't know anything about that. And then you start to look for them, you know? So here's it. Cells in that one too.
Now, what did she paint them black?
this one right here is what got me
Well,
here.
it would be acrylic, but I'm not sure what, I don't know if she brought in the black like she did there, or if it was already painted like, you know, I asked her.
Selena, S-E-Y, yep. Is that all right? Okay. Is it a 270 number?
484 2422.
Okay.
Actually, used to, I taught there when I was in my 20s. I took the business